So I heard a completely ridiculous comment from a fellow golfer today. I waxed this guy and I shook his hand on 14. I was playing really good. Good match. Match is over. Now it's all about my score. And I got to the 17th tee. I'm dash 4. I'm dash 4. Mm-hmm. And the 17th hole is a long 650-yard par 5. Massive hole. It's my nemesis. I snap hook it every time I play the hole with the driver. Every time. What do? I grab my driver and I put a snarl on this thing. It was like it was going left with a neck brace and it would not go back right.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. And the guy that I'm with, Mr. Andrew Gallo, says, I was going to tell you to hit 3-wood, but I didn't want to screw you up. And I wanted to say to him, why would that screw me up?
Right.
It would have been a smart... You don't screw someone up by saying that. Why didn't you just say, dog, hit the 3-wood? It's a 3-shot hole anyway. Why are you hitting the driver?
Especially if he knows your history on that hole.
I was the one that was a rat. I played like a rat, and I bogeyed 18 too, so I finished dash 1. But I was the weasel, but he could have just said, dog, hit the 3-wood, man. Mm-hmm. That doesn't screw anybody up.
Well, I mean, do you guys like other guys weighing in on your...
Not really.
That's where I'm going to go, because I'm like...
Are you telling me, Hazy, the problem is if you grab the 3-wood and you fold the sod over it, you would have looked at the guy and said, thanks a lot for that comment.
Like, you're a good enough golfer, obviously, where you have control...
Dude, and that's what I thought. You're a good player. Just hit your driver down the middle like a good player does. You're -4. Hit it down the middle. And I snapped this thing like a 30 handicap.
Mm-hmm. And there's no guarantees the 3-wood would help. I mean, usually the club selection comment is for someone who's not great, not playing well, where you're like, hey, just put the driver away. Like, can't get off.
So you think he was right by not saying anything?
Yes, I do. I don't think you're in a position to tell a guy who's 4 under par what he should be hitting off the tee.
That's where I was going.
You know? Like, especially a par 5. Like, it's one thing if it's a par 3 and there's wind and he's like, I wouldn't hit the 7. You know, you might want to go up a club. Like, that is kind of reasonable where that's a caddy move. The idea of putting bad mojo in your head, like, don't hit the driver because you can't hit it on this hole.
But I think
I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. I wouldn't do it either.
He said afterwards, he's like, you're playing for your score. The 3-wood was the play. I think if you said it like that, I would have said,
well, why don't you just hit 3-wood there every time you play it? Like, if it's an issue, you have a mental block.
Thanks, you donkey. Thanks, you donkey.
Well, what do you need someone else to tell you that for? Like, what are you, a robot? Like, why can't you just – you had to know you can't hit the driver on that club. It's not up to your buddy. It's up to you. Put the driver away.
Because in my head, I like to show some stones saying, you know what? I'm like Tiger in 2008. I want to keep moving the needle, and I want to finish 6 under par.
Yeah. Well, that's
what's in your head.
Yeah, you're right. And you got to hit driver to maybe have the green in play for your second shot or have a little flip wedge.
You have to roast the driver to possibly have a 260-yard shot into the green, which is a tiny green, and it rarely happens. But I did it the last 2 times I played, so I'm like, and I just, snarl came back.
I think listen, it still worked out. You shot under par. It's all good. It's all good. You know, don't worry about your boy. Don't just put the driver away next time. Go 3-wood, 9-iron, and you're home free.
If you're going to do it at that hole every time, then you should change the club. Like that, I understand what you're saying.
Ideally, that would be the case.
It's so bad, you guys, that one of my other buddies said, there's a basket in the woods full of your golf balls because it lands in the same place every time.
Yeah, that's uncalled for, too. That'll put you on tilt. That'll lead to a bogey on 18, which is exactly what happened. All right, Pierre LeBrun coming up here in a moment. There are reports coming out of ESPN that Rich Paul is telling teams don't pick Bronny James or he'll go play in Australia.
That is so
as if
scary.
This is the OHL draft. Don't take him or he'll go to college. Oh, London Knights on the board? Yeah, we're okay. Yeah, go ahead. We can pull that one off.
But
like, this guy's a second-round pick. And his agent is calling teams, threatening them. I would love to be on the line if a GM just started cackling, saying, "Do you think we're taking this guy? Are you on glue? Like, stop wasting
Yeah.
my time and don't ever
That's
call me
exactly
again.
what I'd say. Please don't wait. I'm too busy for this because we don't have any
Yeah.
intention on taking him anyway.
Not even on our board. He's not in our
Yeah.
top 75. Like, if we had 5 more picks in the round, we wouldn't take him. So
Yeah.
please don't call me. But, like, that's just such an amateur. This is the National Basketball Association. And
Right.
agents are calling up, I'm assuming to get him to L.A. in the Lakers, but I don't know. So the Lakers will be on the board here in a moment, and we'll see. All right, big stuff going on down there in Vegas. We got the awards tonight. We got the draft tomorrow, free agency on Monday. Here's our TSN hockey insider, Pierre LeBrun. How are we feeling down there, Pierre?
I'm feeling like this is emotional. This is my last overdrive hit of the season. I want to hug you guys. Big bear hug from me from Vegas, 3 time zones away.
I love it. I love it. All right, so what do we make? Mitch Marner, it's the gratuitous Marner question out of the gate. Where are we at here? Anything change over the last 24 hours or what?
Really, at this point, Brad Treliving, who spoke to us yesterday, I mean, his focus is so much on upgrading his D, on trying to re-sign Bertuzzi and Domi. Obviously he's talking to teams, but I don't get the sense the Marner thing is a front burner thing right now. And again, we don't have to get into all the reasons why. I think it should be obvious to everyone by now, but I don't get a sense anything big's happening there right now.
Pierre,
Okay.
I asked Dregs yesterday about the amount of chatter going on. Is it about the same as previous years, or does it feel like it's a lot more because of the condensed schedule of the Cup just being handed out on Monday?
Yeah, I had a couple of team executives and agents today literally refer to their day as a complete gong show. There's a lot going on. And what happens number one is that you're right. I mean, I think a lot of teams are trying to respect the end of the Cup final and delay a lot of these conversations until they got here to Vegas. But the other thing is, the cap is going up $4 million, and there are more teams able to do some things than they could the last few years when it was essentially a flat cap. So I'll give you an example. Jake Gensel's the number one guy on the UFA market. Carolina is pushing extremely hard here in the last 24 hours to try and re-sign him, and they're the only team that can give him 8 years, as you guys know. So they've upped their offer, and they're giving Gensel a lot to think about. But in the meantime, I know that there are teams that you would never even think would have been in on it, because you look at them and you're like, well, they don't have cap room. But I think what's happening is I think they're going to let it be known to Gensel's camp that if he hits the market Monday, they will make room for Jake Gensel. And so those conversations are a bit fresher, and that's been happening here in the last 24 to 48 hours. And in the meantime, guys that are trying to stay put or go to the market, there are big decisions happening. So Matt Roy, as I tweeted, top 4D from LA, looks like he's 99% headed to market. The Kings just couldn't get to his number. There's going to be a lot of interest in him. Steven Stamkos, still status quo as of this morning on where that stands with Tampa and him. I still think Tampa will make a renewed effort between now and Monday. But
does Tampa have an offer for him, Pierre? Like, does Tampa say, hey, if you want to be a Tampa Bay Lightning, there's this available? Like, has that been established?
No, they've made him an offer. Absolutely. Yeah, they've made him an offer. It's just not an offer that I think he's willing to sign right now. So either that offer improves, and for that to improve, the Lightning would have to move a body in the next couple of days. A lot of talk about whether they can move Tanner Jeannot. But if they can improve that offer, I think Steven Stamkos mentally is probably ready to go to market, which is wild, really. And, I think Nashville and Detroit are among several teams that are hoping to get a chance to talk to him Monday. But when I look at these guys that have played their whole careers in one place, I still think there's one last shot for Tampa to get it done. So I'm not ready to say that he's definitely going to market. I don't think that's there yet.
With Pierre LeBrun, our TSN hockey insider. Again, on the Leafs, like you mentioned, they're still working on Bertuzzi, Domi, other UFAs. Like, where does that kind of stand in the likelihood of any of these guys returning to Toronto, either before July 1st or even on July 1st?
So I'll tell you that the vibe I picked up in the last day or two, same with CJ and Dregs, is that I think there's a real mutual desire from the Leafs and each camp for Domi and Bertuzzi to get this done. I'm not predicting it for sure will, but what I'll tell you is that there's certainly finally been movement from where they were heading into Vegas. Like, in other words, everyone understands they got to get real with their positions here. So, I think in terms of Bertuzzi, his camp is willing to be more flexible, even perhaps take less money than what he made this year in order to get more term out of it. And so those are the nature of the conversations happening right now between Bertuzzi and Brad Treliving. In terms of Max Domi and all that, I mean, that certainly started out at a pretty wide gap a month ago, and it is narrowed. It's not there yet. And I guess what I can't predict and don't know for sure is that does each side feel they've gone as far as they can or not. Again, there's a mutual desire to have Max Domi re-sign. I just can't tell you for sure whether they can bridge that final gap that there still exists here. So, I think it's probably important for Domi to get 4 years out of this. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he can. I think the Leafs maybe are at 3 years. So who blinks? We'll find out. Monday's Monday.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me throw out some of these names. Like you mentioned, Matt Roy, Brett Pesce, Chris Tanev, Nikita Zadorov, like 4, big name defensemen, 3 the right shot. Zadorov's a big personality. Of those 4, Roy, Pesce, Tanev, Zadorov, where do you see the Leafs coming into play?
Number 1 would be Tanev for the Leafs. Dallas right now, and you saw the news that Dallas is buying out Ryan Suter. Dallas is trying really, really, really hard to re-sign Chris Tanev. I don't know if they can get to where it needs to be. If he goes to market, I think Toronto, Ottawa, and Vancouver are all in there hard on Chris Tanev. And I think the Leafs would be willing to go, I know he's 34 years old, but they might give a pretty long term to bring down the AAV, but to get the total dollars there for him, you know what I mean? And people will probably blink at first if this happens, but you're going to see this more and more. It's more about give us the 3 or 4 years that we need. Don't worry about the extra years at the end. And so the Leafs totally have interest. Of course, there's a past relationship between Tanev and Brad Treliving, but having said that, the Leafs are doing their homework on all those guys. Absolutely on Zadorov, absolutely on Matt Roy, absolutely on Brett Pesce. You can throw in Alexander Carrier from the Nashville Predators, who's likely going to market. Another righty, another guy that the Leafs have investigated. So Brad Treliving is in serious improve my blue line mode right now. That's the thing that matters the most to him. He struck out on Jacob Markstrom in net, but I think he's got a few other targets up the sleeve there. And, of course, the Marner thing, which, either nothing will happen there at all and we'll see Marner at camp, or something big happens, but I think it's later in the summer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which, again, we've talked about it countlessly here on this show, and everyone in the city's talking about it. I just, that's $10.9 million. That's a massive amount of money. Don't the Leafs have to know by now, Pierre, what they're going to do or what they want to do, whether that gets executed? And again, that could be we want to trade Mitch, we want to keep Mitch, or we want to sign Mitch. Those are the 3 options. But don't they have to know? I don't see how you can wake up on July 2nd and be like, all right, let's figure Marner out. Let's see what happens here. How can that work? How does that make any sense?
There's knowing, and there's understanding what you know, and then there's understanding what you can do. And, last I checked, the preference for Darren Ferris, the agent for Mitch Marner, was just to have Mitch come to camp and start the year. And that Mitch is excited to play for Craig Berube, and they have a full no move. So I know it sounds like Groundhog Day every time we talk about this, but the only thing that changes that, there are 2 things. One, if the Leafs go at, Mitch Marner on Monday, or at least sometime next week with the offer of an extension, and then gauge his reaction, that's one notable moment. But obviously the other one is this team has come to us with a package that really interests us. Would you be willing to extend with that team? That's the other element that could happen at some point here. And obviously it has not yet.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah. I guess I just wonder when it gets to a point, it makes sense for them. If he's coming back, let's say he's coming back and he's playing, put the contract extension aside. It's just Mitch is coming back.
Right.
Do you expect them to announce that publicly in the next few days or July 1st, or are they just not even going to address it and we'll get to day one of camp and that'll be it?
I just don't know that it can be that clean, Brian. I understand. I mean, I'm with you. It'd be nice if it was clean and you just say, you know what, we've explored all this, but they're not waiting and they just want to come to camp and then see where the year brings them. I think that'd be great because everyone could just stop talking about it.
Right.
But I think the reason you can't come out and really make it that clean if you're Brad Treliving is that what if you get an offer on August 10th that knocks your socks off? And you owe it to yourself and the Leafs to bring it to Mitch Marner. That's the part of it the Leafs don't control. And one of the things we've seen the last few years is teams realize that they didn't get everything done they wanted through the first wave of the offseason. And suddenly there's a Matthew Tkachuk on the market late in the offseason. Those things happen. And I'll tell you, I mean, Leon Draisaitl, I might as well throw him in this conversation. It's clear that the Oilers can't proceed as fast as they can here on Draisaitl for a number of reasons. One, Jeff Jackson said today he wants the next GM that he's going to hire to handle the Draisaitl thing. Well, he doesn't have the next GM in place. Right. So, by definition, they're not deciding Leon Draisaitl's future in the next week. So that could be in August. You know what I mean? I know we want everything figured out by next Monday, and then we all go away and talk to each other in September. But I said this earlier on Overdrive a couple of weeks ago, if you guys remember. I think this is going to be one of those summers where it's like you wake up on July 17th and this happened. I just don't think everything is in a perfect sequence of dominoes here.
Okay.
Pierre, we talk about Marner a lot. Obviously, that's the market we're in. But do you think there's other than Natchez, there's other star players around the league that could have big money coming to them? And I'm not suggesting Rantanen, but players like that could be surprising, like guys on their way out and playing somewhere else?
Haven't got really a sense of a surprising name here this week. I mean, obviously, we know that Patrick Laine is out there, but that we've already reported that. I mean, I guess the one thing to look for over the coming month is guys that have a year left on their deal and how those talks go. So I'll just give you an example. I mean, the Florida Panthers haven't been able to get to any of this, obviously. But once they figure out whether or not they're re-signing Sam Reinhart or not, they got to start looking at past that. And past that, you got guys like Sam Bennett and Verhaeghe who have a year left on their deals. And I have to imagine that at some point this summer, they got to go to those core guys and say, what does that look like? I think they each make $4 million. Well, they're not going to be making $4 million on their next deal. So what does that look like? And can we extend you this summer? And if the answer is no, where does that leave all this? So that would be the next wave of, names we haven't even talked about. I'm not saying those guys are going anywhere. I'm just giving an example of discussions that are on the back burner right now because there are more pressing issues. But eventually, as the offseason unfolds, you start to look at your guys with a year left around the league, and you could have a surprising name move based on not being able to extend.
Just sticking with Florida there, Pierre, would all signs point to Brandon Montour being an unrestricted free agent just based on, some of the players that you just laid out and the Sam Reinhart situation?
I think so. I mean, neither the Panthers or Brandon Montour's agent have come out and confirmed that in the last couple of days, but I have never sensed that was a logical, a logical play for Florida to be able to squeeze all these things in. That once they extended Forsling before the trade deadline to an 8-year deal, and we know that Sam Reinhart is their number one priority, and they're working on that right now. I just don't know how it works cap-wise for Brandon Montour. I think he is headed to market. I think he's going to do well. He's another guy that the Leafs will look at because he's on the right side and he's a top 4D. But his market is pretty extensive because of his skill set. I'd be really surprised if he re-signed. I never say 100% no because things can shift in a hurry, but I think he's headed to market.
When Reinhart signs, Pierre, whether it be with Florida or elsewhere, what number do you think he plays at?
Okay, so great question. It absolutely depends on where he signs. If he stays in Florida, and that's my bet, I think the number starts with an 8. If he goes to market, yes. If he goes to market, I think the number is anywhere from $9.5 to $10.5 million.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So,
Okay.
So what was stunning there? You're stunning. You think it's too high or too low?
57 goals, man. 8
But he
million
only did it
something.
once, though. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I know it's only,
yeah.
but like what is he a 50 goal scorer for you every year, or is he a 40 something? That's the thing that.
Also, his situation is a factor. He plays with Barkov. He plays in Florida. He's probably got a great setup. He just won a Stanley Cup. He's got to be thinking, is an extra $1 million a year going to make my life that much better than it is right now?
Right.
That's bang on, and you guys would know. You guys have lived that, and South Florida, no state income tax. Number 2, I believe he's built a huge place, a beautiful home there in South Florida. Him and his wife are super happy there. Number 3, no one's coming in making more than Barkov's $10 million and Kachuk's $9.5. That's the inner existing cap of that team, right? And the
Is that like forever though? Like what if?
Well,
there's-
no, you're right.
In 3 years, if they draft a kid that turns into a superstar, why would he?
No, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's of the same vintage, though. To be fair.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That makes sense right now. I just, what also I think what that says is that Bill Zito and the Panthers understand that, and they're playing their cards. It's like it's a leverage play by the teams, and that's kind of what I always wonder. Why don't other teams do the same thing? Like, I get it. Florida's unique now because they just won the Cup, of course, but it just seems like those
Brian,
teams.
if it ends up, I don't know this for sure, but let's say he gets max term, though, on the other side of it. Like, okay, he took less than he could have gotten the market, but what if he ends up with 8 years?
Yeah, and that's substantial.
That's still a lot of good security, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, listen, if it were me, I'd be looking at the same thing. I'd be like, how do I stay here? I wouldn't blame him at all. But, it is, again, it's not like the Panthers could spend more money, Reinhart could demand more money, and anything could happen. But this always comes back with like the Canada versus Florida, Canada versus Vegas thing, where these teams are like, no, we'll give you 8. And the players are like, all right, we'll take it. We're up here, it'd be like, oh, you got to give them 13. It's like, why?
Well, I will tell you right now, I was chatting with a team executive a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about this very thing. Again, the advantage that, and it wasn't sour grapes from this person. We're just saying it is what it is. That Dallas, Nashville, Vegas, the 2 Florida teams, no state income tax. He was saying, and he was not from a Canadian team, he's from an American team, but he was saying, I will tell you right now, he believed that the percentage of players who do not want to play in Canada is now up to about 30% of the player pool. So if that's accurate, and I think that's a little too high, but let's say that's accurate, right off the bat, if you're running one of the 7 Canadian teams, you've got that stacked up against you, plus the income tax difference in these markets and the lifestyle difference, and some guys who just very frankly don't want to be recognized when they walk the streets. Mm-hmm. So it's, you could say all you want, well, now it's going to be 32 years that a Canadian team hasn't won the Cup. And it's just bad luck, and it's weird, and Canadian teams have gone to the end like we just saw with Edmonton. Oh, it might be bad luck. It might be an anomaly, or maybe it's just it's also stacked against the Canadian teams to have the same breaks. I mean,
yep.
It's all for what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. And is it going to get easier? Will the league ever do anything about that? Like, will the league ever take into consideration the state, like the difference in taxes and the benefits that clearly come from that? I don't know how you regulate it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's pretty clear.
I know a couple of teams in California and New York State who would jump on the same bandwagon and hope that you're right about that.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Exactly. All right, Pierre. We'll leave it there, buddy. Enjoy yourself.
Pierre, you were
there.
great on your last episode.
Yeah.
Yes, good
Outstanding.
stuff.
Oh.
We appreciate everything all year. We always love having you on. The next time we chat, the Cowboys will be back, and it will be a beautiful thing.
Woo! We'll be like 3-0 already by then. By the way, it behooves me to say how much it's a pleasure to be on every week all year, and have a great summer, boys.
You too, buddy.
Pierre,
We'll
I just
see you
have
Monday.
to ask. I have to ask you one thing before we leave. Do you actually think Dak Prescott is a guy that you can win anything with? Tell
Ask me in a year when his deal's up.
No, but honestly,
The answer is no. It's a rhetorical question.
You know
I know
believes
this.
in that guy,
I don't
Pierre.
know. I don't know if he's ever going to lead my team to a Super Bowl, but I know that if he wasn't their quarterback, things could be a lot worse.
Yeah, you're right about that. The guy's
man.
he's a regular season stud, and he's a playoff dud, and it's too bad. But
And we have
It's
no
kind of
time
like-
for anything like that around here.
all right, Pierre, thanks, buddy.
All right. Love you guys. See ya.
There's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN hockey insider. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with all these, right?
I think there's a ton of, like, I'm telling you, I don't know why I'm like jacked up for this. I really think
Well, what do
there's
you
gonna be.
when you say that? What,
And, like,
it's
what are
not
you
just free
horny
agent
about?
signing. You're talking
just-
trades out of nowhere.
I'm talking not trade, but I'm like, we were just talking about like Chris Tanev for example, or like Sam Reinhart. Like these guys potentially could leave teams. Montour, I think these are really good players, like Brett
Yeah, I agree.
Pesce, like and teams that are maybe close to taking that next step are probably all in on them. So they're going to try and be creative. We're probably going to be talking about this, next year once we're back and the dust settles. But it's more about like, geez, that deal. Monday we're going to be talking. That deal's 7 years. How can that 34-year-old get a 7-year deal? But it's like that's what the manager's thinking. Like I really feel like there's going to be some
Okay.
outrageous stuff like that.
Well, I hope you're right. I mean, I hope it's more than just who we know is available. Like what adds spice is when you get trades. Like
Right.
big trades, big names. And we always heard, well, COVID, you just can't do it. There's no flexibility. It's over.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be flexibility. Will they finally make monster trades? We'll see.
Yeah.
Allmark's already been dealt. Markstrom's been dealt. Those are two big trades.
Yep.
And I would suggest probably the biggest bombshell from a UFA standpoint would be Stamkos leaving, right? Like if
Right.
that happens at 3:25 on Monday where it's Stamkos signs 7 years in Detroit, you're like, whoa. Like that's a substantial move. And that's a
Right.
game changer for him, for Tampa, for Detroit, whoever it's going to be.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Good
All right.
coming.
Rowan Barrett coming up. Best bet still to come. Jays Yankees tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, so news flash. Breaking news here. Bronny James was drafted by the Lakers.
Shocker.
The Lakers take Bronny. So I guess that means LeBron's going to sign that deal, and I guess it's going to come true. Like LeBron is going to play with Bronny, and I'll bet you Bronny doesn't start in the G League. Bronny will probably opening night, starting 5 for the Lakers, him and LeBron, just to fulfill LeBron's
I got to
dream.
ask your honest opinion, and I gave you my thoughts at the beginning of the show. How much back channeling do you think LeBron did himself on this?
I don't think he would do it personally. Rich Paul would have done it, and I would.
Right.
I would
But with direction, like what do you think
lot.
he said to Rich?
A lot,
man.
I think a lot. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence he went to the Lakers, and I'm pulling for the kid. I want, I hope it works out for him. I hope he has a great career, and at some point he's going to have to get out from underneath the shadow of his dad, but, we'll see what happens there. But Bronny ends up going 55th to the Lakers. Bronny will not be in Paris for the Olympic Games, but Canada will be. Canada's going. They got their training camp going on this week in Toronto. Then they're going to head to Vegas and play some tune-up games. And then before you know it, heading to Europe, it's go time, man. And there's high hopes for the Canadians, as there should be. And the man in charge of picking a team, putting it together, he's been with Canada basketball for a long time, joins us now. Here's Rowan Barrett. How you doing, Rowan?
I'm doing good, guys. Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. High hopes. I mean, that's probably an understatement, right, with what happened last summer and the way the program's been building up. How are we feeling early into this camp about putting this group together and the chances of making some noise in Paris?
Look, our objective is to win. I think that, this has been a long time coming, right? Growing our system, growing our stable of athletes, growing our system. It's taken time, but we do firmly believe that this is really now the beginning for us. We believe we have athletes stocked out to the 2032 Olympics and beyond. And so, here we go, right? We haven't been in the Olympics for quite some time. It's the first experience for so many of our players. So we're going to go there and put our best foot forward with hope and with expectation.
In terms of, bringing in a new coach here, you got Jordi Fernandez. Now, obviously, Nick Nurse was, coaching the squad for quite some time, or a little while anyway. Jordi comes on board. What kind of impact do you think he can have, in terms of the style of play and in terms of the way a lot of these players are going to react to him and kind of fit the mold of what you're looking for here with Canada basketball?
No, that was a big question coming in last summer. How is he going to do here? And, I think as we went through the process, looking at coaches, and we had to do that kind of shrouded in mystery and secrecy and everything else, that was one of the big things, right, is how is he going to be able to communicate with our guys? Because, the real deal at the end of the day, guys, it doesn't even matter how good a coach he is. If the players don't respect him and have some type of belief, they won't listen. They won't listen to anything he has to say.
But how does that
really
start,
important.
though, Rowan? How does that start? Like, how does he get their attention and then the guys say, like, these are highly paid celebrity stud athletes. What has to happen for them to look at him and say, I believe this guy and I respect what he's saying?
I think there's a few things, but one is definitely your track record. What have you done, right? Where have you been? I think that's huge. Who have you coached? Who have you worked with, right? I think all those things they're looking at. And I also think he's worked with, some guys that are on our team, like a Jamal Murray, for example. He's worked with him in the past. And so, there's an ability there for guys to for a guy to pass it forward to the rest of the guys, say, no, this guy's solid. He's solid. He cares. He knows his stuff. And then, at the end, really, you've got to deliver when you're in the seat. And I think the big thing was he came in, he started really well with us. And then when we went into our kind of preliminary competitions, preparing us for the actual World Cup, he was cool as a cucumber, man. I mean, right there in the jaws of the game, we're playing Spain, in Spain, world number one, right? You're drawing up stuff. Who are you in that moment, right? In the last minute, drawing stuff up with your board. Who are you in that minute? And I think our players needed to see that. They saw great things, and he took it right into the World Cup and did well. So coming into this year, we're expecting no different, and I think our players, their confidence in him has grown, and here we go, right, ready to take on the world.
Absolutely, with Rowan Barrett, and you mentioned Jamal, and it doesn't take long when you look at this roster you guys have compiled, and I know you're going to narrow it down after the camp, but backcourt of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jamal Murray, there's a lot of countries around the world that would envy that, a lot. Is that kind of the essence of what you're hoping to bring to the table in terms of where everything's going to start for you guys, the ball in the hands of Shai and Jamal, and you take it from there?
No, you're making a good point. I think really the bottom line is, you can't just throw out a collection of players. Like, teams have gone in there with tremendous talent, and they've lost. Right? They've lost at the World Cup. They've lost at the Olympics. The USA has shown that over time. It's not really just how good are the players. It's how good a team can you be? How good can you gel together, right? Are guys willing to accept their roles? All of those kinds of things are very, very important. And so, obviously we're going to be working at that. I think we did really well with that last summer. There could be some new additions potentially into the squad. Now that you kind of see the roster of guys we have coming in. Mm-hmm. And, as long as those guys come in and at the end, when we decide on our 12, that same camaraderie is there. And really just the understanding that my country, the flag, comes first, right? And everything else comes after. With that kind of mindset, there's nothing we can't do. I don't believe. I think there's many, many things we can do. Last summer, we beat the number 1, 2, and 3 teams in the world. There's no reason why we should come into this summer thinking we can't do it. But first, we got to make sure we take care of our business. We're all together as a group with the goal in mind. And I think, and I said it in the press conference, I think the reality is, we want to do that, but we're not asking the players to check their egos at the door. Like, I need you to bring your ego inside the room, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when these guys go out to play, they need to think, I'm the best thing in the world. You cannot stop me. Right? There's nothing out here that can stop me. I need the players thinking and feeling that, right? And then give the coach the responsibility to figure out how to meld all those egos together to make it work for us moving forward to be successful. And so there's a number of things that have to happen, but I think we've got a good group of guys who really, really want to win. So my expectation is that we'll be able to put it together and put our best foot forward out there for our country.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And, it was certainly on display last summer, like you said. And I think everything you mentioned kind of was personified by Dillon Brooks, who, Dillon's a really good player. He's not a superstar. He's not of the same caliber as Shai or Jamal or, maybe others on this team. But it appeared to me watching last summer like this guy's got a real propensity for showing up in the biggest moments. He loves playing for Canada. I mean, what can you say about the way he played last summer? And I'm sure you're hoping that he would apply that again this summer.
You know what? It's interesting. You know, like if you watch a hockey game, right? Sometimes there's guys that they just relish going into the boards. You know, like there's some guys that just love that. You know what I mean? There's some guys that love being in front of the net. You know what I mean? Ready to take on whatever comes. There's guys like that. Dylan is in that mold, and I think one of the reasons probably why many Canadians kind of took to him was because they could see Canadian grit, you know, and real toughness. I mean, real toughness, not somebody that's out there just barking and chirping. I mean, real toughness. Like stick your nose in there, put your chin in there, right? Knowing it's going to get hit. You know what I mean? And then saying, come on, you know, give me more. You know, Dylan is like that. And I think when you're going to play international basketball, that's what it is in this game. It's rough and tumble. It's not the NBA. It's much more physical. You can get away with much more. The referees are not blowing the whistle. You got to be able to play through it. And I think that he epitomizes that for our group. Very, very, very competitive, and a team guy. And you know, whatever the public might have thought or seen kind of outside, when he gets in between the lines and he's with the team, you're talking about discipline, focus. Like every single day, I'm coming, same energy. I'm for the team, and I think it's one of the reasons we had some success last summer.
You guys decided to invite Zach Edey to this camp. He had a big night last night. He went 9th to Memphis. Young kid, college kid, no pro experience yet. Like, take us through that process, the invitation to Zach, and what you'd need to see out of him at camp for him to be a part of the 12 going to Paris.
Yeah, you know, this is a kid that came in early when he was in high school, and, you know, we could see it, what it could potentially be down the line. It was going to take time to come to fruition. I know, but this guy's a grinder. You know, he's a grinder, just like every day. No hoopla. Nobody knows me. Like, I wasn't even in the top 100, you know, coming into college. Nobody knew. And he just keeps working and keeps working and keeps working. And with his size, I mean, it's elite, truly elite size. He's got a great pair of mitts. He catches everything you throw at him, right? And then he's like a ramrod, you know, like right through you. And so I just think experience sometimes is a challenge when we get a kid at this age, but he is so big with such great hands and a great attitude as well, and a desire to win. And you could see him pulling his Purdue team all the way through the tournament this summer. We believe he's gotten better than he was last year. We believe he got good experience with playing with men last summer, and we're really hoping now with that he's in the best shape of his life, and really hoping that he'll be able to kind of jump in now and do some of that, you know, for us. And I think, you know, the first thing is making sure his team is going to clear him, right, to play for us. You know, that's the one athlete we really couldn't speak to his team, not knowing who it was going to be until he got drafted yesterday. So we're still working on that and hoping everything will be fine, you know, for Zach coming in.
How does that work? Like, do you have to make a case with these individual teams? Do you have to push a guy like a GM overboard? Like, hey, please allow me to have your player? Like, how does that
crazy.
interaction work?
Yeah, no, that's my job, right, guys?
Yeah,
That's my job. I think, you know, first of all, it starts with the player, you know, and I think one of the things that, you know, we did in a culture shift is we just kind of demanded, like, I'm not going to talk to your agent or your team. I got to talk to you first, right? Like, Perfect. If I can't speak to you, if we can't talk, guys, then you can't play on this team. It's just that simple. If you won't answer the phone, guys, then we don't believe you're going to dive on the floor in the fourth quarter, you know, to grab and save that ball to help us win, right? And so it starts there with the player's desire to want to do it. And then once that's there, then you go to the next stage with the agent, then you go with the team. You know, look, these teams, they're paying these guys a lot of money, you know? Some of these guys are making $1, $2, $3, $4 million a month. Right? Like these guys, they're taking care of, these are their assets. And so you got to know it's challenging sometimes, you know, for a team to want to let a player go. I think a player like Zach, really young guy who's just coming in, sometimes the players, the teams, they want to keep those players and get them acclimated to their city they're going to live in, because there's so many changes happening for them that sometimes they don't really want them playing in that first year coming in. But you just try to do your best. You try to work with it. And usually in an Olympic year, a lot of the time, they understand how big a stage, how big a moment it is for the athlete. And a lot of times they will let the athlete go. So, we're working at it. And, hopefully we'll be successful with this one as well.
You didn't have to push Masai over to get RJ into the camp, I hope.
No way, man. Look, RJ loves to play, and I think obviously he's a young player still. He's been obviously in the headlines for many, many years, but he just turned 24. Mm-hmm. RJ potentially could have 2 more Olympics in him. This is still a young, growing player, and I think the Raptors are looking forward to him gaining more experience here, right? These experiences are really good, especially when you're playing with some guys that are like at the top of the NBA, playing with those kinds of players every day in practice, working alongside them every day, right? And seeing what areas that how they work on their game, how they grow, I just think are good things for young athletes. And so, hopefully it'll be good for RJ as well as with a number of our guys that are there.
Absolutely. Well, it's a busy time of year, so we really appreciate you finding time for us, and we're looking forward to seeing how this plays out, and we can't wait to see you guys, do your thing over in Paris. We're rooting for you as we always would. So thank you for this, Rowan, and we'll do this again soon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You got it, Rowan Barrett, the
I just fell in love
GM
with
of
that
Canada.
guy.
I love the attitude in his approach.
Dude, some of those answers. I love the first thing where he said, if they will not respond to a text message from us, we're not dealing with the player. Because if you can't have the decency to respond to it, you're not going to dive on the floor. Mm-hmm. What a great concept to start with. I love that guy, and I love everything he said. There's a lot of people that will throw some baloney around, but I don't know. Leadership is about getting people to buy what you're selling, and I just bought into that guy, and I have nothing to do with him.
Yeah. I agree. And impressive. Listen, it's a program that has been emboldened because of the amount of players and talent that are now available. So there was a time not long ago you had to beg players because there just weren't enough. You had to beg them. Now Canada realizes the program's been very good. The filter system's working. There's a ton of Canadians in the NBA, Canadians in the draft. And if you don't want to play, go stand over there. We'll get someone else that can play. And I love the attitude, too. We're going over there to win, man. We're not over there for participation badges and to have fun in the village.
I love the second comment that got my attention was don't leave your ego at the door. To some degree, bring it inside.
Right.
If you're SGA and you go out and dominate a game in February in the NBA, do it for us. Yeah. Don't be like, it's about the it is about the team, but you still got to be yourself.
Yep.
He said some fantastic things there, and I loved all of it.
Yeah.
You're the man. Exactly. Yeah, you got Shai, you got Jamal Murray. I mean, I was talking about Shai vicariously through him, but you are too.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there with this camp. It's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward. All right, there's news coming out of Vegas, news coming out of the NBA. We got the Jays and Yankees tonight. Our best bet still to come. It's going to be a good one. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Jays, Yankees tonight. I'm looking for offense. Looking for offense tonight. Over the number, 8.5 runs. Aaron Judge to record a hit. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. to record a hit. All right, couple of hits. And over the number, that parlay paying plus 171 on FanDuel. Best bets powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus. Physically located in Ontario. Seeing Tyler Myers has signed a 3-year extension at $3 million to stay in Vancouver. So
that's pretty good for him because he's 34 now. I think.
Yeah, 34.
So a couple years and he was solid for them farther down the lineup. Big guy, I think the biggest thing is they're in on Tanev as well.
Right.
So to be
and
interesting
Gensel,
to see.
it sounds like, too, if he gets there.
Yeah, it sounds like. So, I mean, lots of moving and shaking, I'm telling you. I hope I don't disappoint, or I hope it doesn't disappoint, this free agency.
Well, let's see what one of the Leafs going to get in on the act. I mean, outside of signing your own players, I guess you could make a trade right now if you wanted to.
Yeah.
None of these rights being traded either. That was always a thing that happened, right? Or
try to sign him. Good, get him signed.
We'll give you a 4th rounder to be able to sign this guy before July 1st.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff used to happen. It doesn't feel like that happens as much anymore. But
no.
All right, Jays, Yankees tonight. Aaron Judge. I have a feeling he's going to hit a home run at some point this weekend.
Out of the dome.
I think he's going to hit a home run.
Right out of the building.
Yeah. Don't hold me to that. Anything's possible, but I think he's going to hit a home run.
Yeah.
And I want to see what Bo Bichette brings to the table this weekend. After Bo said he wouldn't be
I want to
surprised
hear
at
what
all.
he says after the game.
Yeah.
All eyes are on him, I think.
They will be. And also you got Bronny James, drafted by the Lakers. I mean, that means him and LeBron are going to play together, and I hope it works out for the kid. Like, I really do. But I don't know if this helps him, like, at all. I don't know if this helps. You know, he's got to earn his way into the league. He's got to earn playing time. Like, what does this do for J.J. Redick?
Right.
Hey, J.J., Bronny's playing tonight. What are your thoughts on that, Coach?
Yeah, that's
Like, how's he going to answer that if LeBron's like, why isn't Bronny playing? What is J.J. Redick possibly going to say to LeBron James?
Wow,
It's going to be a circus.
He shouldn't be
man.
on the team though. Like,
Well, he
that's
probably
the thing.
shouldn't be like an opening night, 12-man rotation guy. No, I don't think so. But would it, if they already drafted him, what's putting it? You think it's beyond LeBron to say no? He's playing. Like, he better be a part of the roster. I don't think that that's too far fetched.
No, I agree.
Anyway. All right, moving. We'll see what comes of it tomorrow. Good stuff. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at.
Hazy, I thought you had a great show. I have you graded as a 10 out of 10. But you have to back it up tomorrow. 4 p.m.?
We'll chat then.